Sunstreaker Wozza, and welcome back to our part 3 of every 5-star rated for 2024. So we left off at batch 10. So a big thank you to Tex for joining me again.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Woz. It's good to come and wrap this one up.
Straight into batch 11, which was the most recent batch when we did this last time.
I think still Twin Twist leads that list because it's just, we spoke about when you encounter a defense without Twin Twist versus one with, your planning changes completely. When you're having to just even talk about thinking about that type of planning, it means that Twin Twist is still number one in that must-have batch. Now, it's the whole Pipes versus Ironhide. They're both in different batches, right? So if you were to go picking this batch and you got Ironhide for me, it's almost must-have, right? It's hard because I think it's more of a just a point comparison. That's all we're really comparing it, right? Like an electric ability versus an acid ability. And they're not huge damage because that's what the whole Warriors thing is. But Pipes is just that. I think Ironhide could sneak up into that must-have in terms of this batch. Yeah.
Here's my sort of take on this batch. I went for this batch to get Twin Twist and possibly Slingshot. So I pulled Twin Twist, super pleased with that, and then pulled Hound. Quite disappointed. And then had a thought, well, I've got Pipes. Do I really want Ironhide? Now, if I went back for this batch, I would still want Ironhide and Slingshot. Slingshot, is he a must-have? I don't know. What do you think?
I think he's just a well-rounded good bot. That if you're not running SG Jetfire as your jet, or you're not having Skids as your gunner, Slingshot is your bot, right? It's an air bot, it's an acid bot. So a well-rounded bot, right? Because even the other two are not used on defense either. So you're kind of just sitting in that nice, good category of used on a war team. And that's where it kind of leads into Blur. Like, there was this massive spike of using Blur, but I've actually seen personally a great reduction in the use of Blur personally. And is it still a good bot? I think it's still a good bot. Is Blur taking on the aspect that we treated Goldfire to, right?
Yeah.
Are people adapting their bases better to not get sacked? I got a couple of players in my team that have now reverted to using Cup again.
Yes, I've seen that.
Right? And so it's like, this is the ever-changing sack meta where there's a group of bots that are sack bots, and when base design prevents, a couple of them, there's always going to be a sack bot that will sneak through that particular base design. But from a game perspective, we should be forcing players to change as per base design.
Yeah.
And it's not per meta, right? It's base design. Base design now has gotten stale from a difficulty perspective in terms of HP and DPS. So it's about where we put those mines. What op bots are we linking out next to? So for me, Blur has just dropped the rank into good. Slingshot stays in the good. I mean, Hound is Hound. It's hard because it does what he says, But
personally, I feel he needs to drop down to awful. I think if you pull this guy from this batch, you're pretty annoyed. You're pretty frustrated by that, I think.
Yeah. And look, I'm happy to have that happen.
And that means batch 11 drops down to 19 out of 25. And then we come on to batch 12. So we obviously didn't rate this last time. It's the first time rating this batch. Start with the first bot, and that is Saber and Defosaurus. Now, before you sort of lynch him and say how poor he is, I've got to admit that now he's got everything that he can possibly have, I don't think he's awful. I think he's alright. I can find some uses for him in leveling and some Zone 16 teams. I can find good use out of him, but I don't think he's hit my war team anytime soon.
That sounds like situational to me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was just saying, I think that come maybe 2 years ago, we might have had this guy down as not great or awful. And I think that what Space Ape have done, I've improved him, but he's not a good bot.
Yeah, look, when this bot came into to 5 batch testing, it was the moment you talked about reducing the cost, it became overpowered, right? That's what it, because of the range. If you zip this guy around 4 times on a base, it didn't matter who the other 7 were.
And next up we have Topspin and Terramander. So I actually don't have this bot. A good friend of mine used this bot in Wars, absolutely loved it. So I do see some people that actually use it quite a bit. Don't think it's in your war team, so
No, I mean, look, I went for him in the endurance bot. It was pretty fun. Um, Sort of looks like a warpath kind of animation. Pretty high damage for a single target, like 9,000. So it's and I've actually saw him pop up in a couple of defenses. I like that. I like seeing new bots make their way into the game. People are testing the boundaries. Is it good? I think he's actually a good bot because from a part-time defense, easy to level, combat choices, damage, and cost. Just a pretty good, well-rounded bot. I'm not gonna lie.
and then next up we have Skids and Knockout. So obviously these were probably the pick of the batch at the time when the acid meta was absolutely huge. Personally, I still use Skids in Wars, but I don't think is the must-have bot they used to be. Maybe.
Um, yeah, not a must-have. I think there's a lot of options out there now. So I keep him in that good category, even though not used on defense. Just easy leveling, good for wars. To have that acid factor, and pretty good combat choices, and the cost is affordable. So definitely a well-rounded bot. Just missing the defense.
Yeah, good G1 core. Yeah, good
Yeah,
ability. Yeah, good all round, definitely.
yeah,
And then we have Air Raid and Slipstream. So this guy obviously came from nowhere to be massively in the meta. Very similar to Brainstorm and Guy Hawks. I think in the same category again. Good bots.
definitely. I mean, if you're not using brainstorm, you use an air raid, right? So it just comes down to um, slowdown versus explosion. When he works is good. So I'm a bit torn. I'm a bit torn on this one because it's the potential is great, but there's just been so many updates that affect him. It's just not reliable.
Yeah,
I put him
well,
in situation.
I'd still put him as good bot because when he does work, he is very good. I think it's a bit harsh on him maybe to move down situational because, like I said, when they do fix it, it does work normal and does work with the stun as well. I think maybe we've
Yeah,
been a bit harsh, but I do agree with what you're saying though. Is that a bot, especially a support bot like Arid, you need to know that it's working. It's sometimes difficult to know it's working because it's a support
yeah,
bot and you can't use it on its own. Most of the bots you can tell they're doing damage or not. Like Optimus was very obvious. So straight away you were like, this is not doing as it should. But
yeah.
with Air Raid, you start looking at the numbers because you're using a cluster, you're looking at the healing around and things like that. But I still think it's a good bot. And the last one, Hoist and Crankcase. So I haven't pulled these bots, not really used them much yourself.
I just pulled it for the fun of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, just excess shards, but I've never seen it used by anyone.
Is that because Minerva's so good though? Or is it because he is actually not great?
No, I mean his ability works, right? The combat choices are good. I think just if it's like a triple changer slot on your squad, right? Like it's either Springer, Sandstorm. I mean, they're the main two kind of spots in that kind of hybrid category. Like we don't see Broadside, don't see Hoist, but they all have like these healing factors, right? Now it'll be interesting later whenever it does happen. When Trailbreaker enters that category of protection and kind of that's that sort of subcategory that Hoist is in, and we just don't have a need for what he offers right now. So just not great.
I was in between situational and not great. But like I said, I don't really use the guy. But like I said, you mentioned Springer and Sandy, but they're in good bots, so does that make him situational? But I'm not going to argue the case. I get that he's around that sort of area of he's okay. And that gives batch 12 a score of 17. And then we come to batch 13, the most recent batch. Straight off, Rotor Storm and Spinister. So I use these guys as 4 stars in level and things like that. Really fun, but I don't feel the need to go for them as a 5-star. I just don't think that spam sort of synergy of I've talked about Thrust and Sentius and Rotorstorm just never got it to really work well and efficiently into the points. I know you tried it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a fun thing. Yeah, like I paired this guy up with Rhinox again just to weaken up everything, but it doesn't translate to war results because you just can't replicate those patterns, the lines that you need to weaken everything, and just using Rotor as a standalone, everything's too HP heavy for his multiplier effect to kick in. So it's I haven't found a good combo that would ever make a war team. I mean, do you use a Skids and do you use a Rust Dust to weaken everything? But I don't know, just situational.
Next up, Robuster and Half Shell. For me, these guys are absolutely unbelievable since they're buff. A mainstay in my team. Use the guy at least twice every single war for that cluster or that liege core. Makes it an easy option to get rid of it. Sometimes let's just take the liege core out of that cluster and leave the cluster intact, depending on what's there. I think must have. I think is absolutely unbelievable.
Definitely, I think I agree. It's just that good little standalone. It's like a powerful smokescreen, isn't it? Right, like good range, one building, boom. Doesn't matter if it's under a shield. It don't matter. Um, but it's not spammable, which is what keeps the bot from being in that OP category and needing to be. Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, the reason I like him as well, I like the fact that he's hard to manage because he's quite quick and because he's a special bot. He's not all powerful. I've always said I like bots that are balanced in terms of they're not good at everything. There's something you can go, they're good, but it's a small bot. I like it, there's a but to it. And then next up we have Scattershot and Leozag. So when these guys were introduced to this batch, I was actually quite excited. The acid meta was obviously quite huge. Thought they'd get a massive rework. Didn't get the rework. And so where do you think they should be placed now?
In the awful category.
Yeah, I agree. It was so sad because they were awful before the batch was made. And these are the 2 bots I really wanted reworking the most. And the ones that didn't. So sad, really. Yeah, I think his only use is sadly a combiner piece. That's about it. And then next up we have Optimal Optimus and T2 Megs. Do they go straight into must-have?
Absolutely.
Defense, offense.
Leveling, just passive. One of the best passives in the game.
Yeah, I think most people put them in an outpost mainly for their passive.
Yeah, no, this is just a really strong bot. I said T2 took over Rust in my war team and they never looked back.
And then last off, we've got the Sentius twins. So obviously when this was announced, everyone was super, super excited. We obviously got a sort of balance to improve these guys. No, definitely not. So where do you think these guys are? Personally, good bots, are they?
It's just a farming bot, isn't it? Just I mean, it's like borderline good and situational. That's where I sort of see it. Like, looks cool, does a job. I mean, could be defense, but isn't. Could be. No, I wouldn't even consider for war. So, man, I struggle to get past situational actually.
Okay.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, I just don't. We talk about Saber being now equipped. Well, we have what's left. We just don't have a core for Sentius yet, do we? So, what would you? SA11
Yeah.
got the skin, got the combat now.
Yeah, I was thinking between good and situational. I was swaying towards higher situational, lower good. So, I think around there is right with the sort of proviso that they're not. Yeah, they're not awful, but also they're not awful because they're in situational. So, yeah, I think that's where they probably need to be.
It's funny, like he kind of needs Amalgamus Prime Core to kind of stay alive. Makes that survivability factor, keeps him in play longer. Um, People put him on Laser Optimus, kept him alive a lot longer. Um, who knows? But when you can float that Amalgamus back onto Sentius, it changes him into a good bot.
And that leaves batch 13 as 17 out of 25. I think we can sort of see that the batches have improved. A lot of 10s, 12s earlier on in the batches and a bit more consistency. But we're still seeing these sort of not great and awful bots sort of dragging the batches down and looking at those, looking at Skylink, Strafe, Hound, Scattershot, Hoist, those sort of bots. They're the kind of bots that I am trying to avoid in these batches.
It's always been a pet peeve, like growing up, that you've worked up all this grinding to get to that 5-star selection point, and you pull that dud. That is the most demotivating point in the game. When you pull something after a lot of hard work and maybe even some money spent, and you're like, really? I've always said you should be able to choose whatever bot, right? And that comes down to saying, well, why should I have a choice? Because you got crap bots in a batch. If the entire batch was good, not must have, but was good, we're talking, it doesn't matter who you pull. You're going to be like, yes, I can make that work.
Yeah, I was going to say that, if we can get all of them situational and above, that would sort of save it. But there is still some situational bots that we're trying to avoid as well. I mean, I've got Roadbuster and Optimus out of batch 13s. I'm sort of avoiding that batch now, so no real need for Rotostar and Sentius, and definitely no need for Scattershot. Same for Hoist and Crankcase and Topspin Charmander. Again, I'm not going for Topspin Charmander because I'm worried about getting Hoist and Crankcase. So it is right that these sort of bots drag these batches down and make you not want to pull from them. But we are sort of improving old bots now. We've talked about obviously Drift and Barricade, Hover as well, not a 5-star yet, but an old bot being improved. So hopefully some of these older bots can sort of be improved, come back into meta game, and then hopefully later in the year, next year, we can come back, review the current year's batches. Hopefully 3 or 4 batches coming this year, and we'll have some more ratings to do. All right, well that's the entire series finished. Hope you've enjoyed it, guys. Me and Tex obviously enjoyed doing these series of videos. And watch out for more content, not just from myself, but me and Tex in the future. Thank you again. Big thanks to Tex for joining me and taking time out to do these videos.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure always doing this. Lots of fun to catch up with you guys.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for watching, guys, and peace out.